honest, here are my top 10 survival tips for your first year of learning the banjo. I wrote them all down so I don't have to remember them, and then I typically lose lists and then have to call my wife and ask her what the hell was on the grocery list because I left the list at home. But this time I did not lose the list. I have it right here. They're in no particular order, but some of them are kind of grouped. So technically there's more than 10 tips, but I grouped them into basically 10 categories of sorts. The first tip is be prepared to spend a little bit of money. Not super cheap. Because you're going to want to get a bunch of things kind of like right off the bat rather than piecemeal, at least in my opinion. The first obviously is a banjo. This is a Deering Good Time. This was I think $450 to $500, although I did see a used one, actually one of the older ones with the Gumby head at Guitar Center just the other day for $350. I almost picked it up, to be honest. So you're going to want a decent banjo. Along with the banjo, you're going to want a good case, and we'll get back to why you want a good case a little bit later. The second thing is, or the third thing is a good strap, especially for these open back banjos. They're very light and they're tippy. So if you don't have a strap holding this up, as you let go, the neck would just go down, and you don't want to be supporting the neck with your fretting hand. The fretting hand, you just want to be gliding up and down the neck, and you need the neck supported. I think maybe, I've seen a lot of banjo players with the resonator not use a strap, and maybe it just sits, it weighs more, so maybe it just sits in their lap better. But certainly with the open backs, get a strap. The next thing you want to get is a good stand for your banjo, because you don't want to put your banjo away, right? If it's hidden away, out of sight, out of mind, you want it out where you see it. So just have a stand here. I got this one from Amazon for, I don't know, 20 bucks, 25 bucks. As far as stands go, since we're talking about stands, get a music stand to hold your tablature. As well, go ahead and, pick up a binder to keep your tab in. For when you travel, you want to take your tab with you, and you don't want it all screwed up and torn. Buy a metronome and use it. You're going to want to start using a metronome right off the bat. Buy a banjo mute. These just clip right onto the bridge and deaden the vibration so that you can practice just a little bit quieter in case you have people in the house that are watching TV or something. And of course, buy good fingernail clippers, okay? These are the Fox Medical surgical steel fingernail clippers. They do cost a lot. They're 20 bucks. You do get a pair. You get the fingernail clippers and the toenail clippers. But once you clip your first nail, you'll know why. It's got this incredibly grippy, tactile spot on the lever, so they don't slip. They're really, really sharp, so they just smoothly go through your fingernail very, very easily. They're worth it. In my opinion, these are worth it. I actually bought a couple of sets. One I keep in my banjo case, and then I have a couple around the house. All right, so tip number 2, record yourself. This is how actually my YouTube channel even started, is that my instructor told me to start recording myself, and then I wanted to share my videos with my family, and I figured YouTube would be the best way to do it, so I just put it on the internet, and now here we are a year later. Recording yourself is very, very helpful. You can go back, you can look at yourself, see what you're doing right, see what you're doing wrong, or just use that as inspiration to say, that's how I was then, look how far I've progressed today. Because it doesn't feel like you're progressing in the moment. It feels very slow, but when you go back, you could definitely see the improvement. It's really neat. I just use my cell phone, although now that I'm a super famous influencer, I may be improving my setup a little bit sometime later this year. Tip number 3, take your banjo wherever you go. So if you're going on a road trip or something, this is why you need the good case, and this is why I suggest having a binder for your tablature, is throw your banjo in your car with you when you're traveling, so that you can continue to practice when you're on your road trip. so you don't miss a day. It's the consistency. It's constantly, it's not necessarily, oh, I put in 6 hours today. 6 hours today does no good if the next time you practice is a month from now. You need to be practicing a little bit every day, and that means accessibility to your banjo. So if you travel, bring it with you. Next tip, tip number 4, is all about picks. The first one sounds really dumb, but I still catch myself doing it all the time. Sling your banjo on your body before you put your picks on. Likewise, when you're done playing, take your picks off before you take your banjo off. Otherwise, you're scratching up the head of your banjo, making a bunch of racket, trying to grab things. I mean, the picks are metal and they're slick. So they don't, even grabbing a pen to try to write with the picks on is near impossible. Next tip on picks. Picks are pretty damn cheap, so try different kinds. And what I mean by that is, when I first started, I just bought a sample pack of picks on Amazon. It came with this generic black one, and then this generic spoon-shaped one. And I didn't really like them. These spoon-shaped ones, I found out that I was kind of dragging the slide at the side of the pick on the string when I was trying to pick, and it wasn't coming off clean. I did see on another YouTube channel, somebody had these Ernie Ball picky picks, which I don't know why they give you so damn many of them, but they do. And they have I don't know if you can see that, a pointier tip. And for me, it's easier to get a clean pick using Ernie Ball's picky picks. I also swapped out my thumb pick to a Dunlop. This is a large. These are really cheap. I think I started off with a medium after I moved away from this black one, and then the tip of my thumb turned blue, so I switched to a large. Next tip about picks. Angle your picks on your finger. Put a little English on it. When your right hand may not be perfectly perpendicular to your strings, so you can just twist the pick a little bit on the tip of your finger so that they are perfectly perpendicular, and you get that nice, good, clean pick. Next tip, paint your picks. So what I mean by that is your index finger and your middle finger are the two fingers that get finger picks, and then you have your thumb pick, and these two fingers are typically, at least not for me, the same size, as in the same diameter, or circumference, or both. So I have one for each, and so what I've done is I stole a little bit of my wife's fingernail polish. I don't know if you can pick that up, but I painted one, so it's a different color than the other. So I know that one goes on my index finger. I think actually you can get picks in like a bronze color too, and you can do it that way as well, but I just used my wife's fingernail polish. Lastly, this is the last tip for picks. Remove them carefully. So for the first few months, you can shape these picks, because these bands are bendable, to your finger. And I was finding that every time I put on my picks, I had to reshape them to my finger, and it just didn't make any sense to me. And then I realized what the heck I was doing. I was deforming them every time I took the picks off, because I was grabbing by the band, pulling them off, and as soon as it slipped down my finger, the pressure of my fingers would squeeze and bend the pick out of shape. So when you remove your picks, grab them from the tip and just pull them off the tip. That way you don't change the shape of the bands, and they fit every time you put them back on. All right, that's all the tips about picks. Tip number 5, practice standing up and sitting down. Come on, all of us are gonna be performing at the fair one of these days on a stage. You need to be able to play standing up as well as sitting down, and it is different. It is different. You're gonna stand up and play, and it's gonna feel really, really weird. But once you start doing it, actually at some point I was preferring standing up than sitting down, even though I have this really cool banjo throne. Tip number 6, get an instructor. I strongly encourage getting an instructor when it's available and it is affordable. If you don't have an instructor near you that is available, online classes are now a thing. I would refer to you, and I'll link it down below. The Banjo Addict has a really good review of Banjo Ben Clark's Banjo course online. It's through a paywall, so you have to pay for it, but it sounds like you get a lot for your money. So watch Banjo Addict's review of that, and if you're interested in that. It actually may be something that I may pick up at some point too. Tip number 7, when it comes to changing your strings, watch Banjo Lemonade's tutorial on swapping your strings out. I've watched a lot of YouTube channels on swapping strings in preparation for my first ever change of strings, and hers is the best. The only thing that I did different than from her video is that I replaced one string at a time rather than cut through all of them and then replace them all. I did that because once you cut them all, the bridge can then move freely, and then you have to relocate your bridge. I didn't want to do that, so I guess you can draw a pencil line around your bridge and that will help, but I didn't want to do that, so I just replaced one string at a time. Tip number 8, keep a healthy mindset. Expect to be frustrated now and again. It is a learning process. I had an old instructor a long time ago who used to say, if you're not frustrated, you're not learning. I mean, don't forget that this is just, it's fun, but don't think that at some point you won't get a little frustrated. That is fine. Throw your picks across the room. Don't throw your banjo. Throw your picks across the room. Let the steam kind of ease off, and then get back to it. And it's amazing what you're going to see. You're going to see that you're not really learning in the moment anyway when you're practicing. It's overnight when you're sleeping that your brain kind of gels all that information and technique, and then you're better tomorrow. If you want more information on that, watch the Brainjo bites from, I think it's clawhammerbanjo.com or something like that. His YouTube channel is really good. He approaches it from a very scientific point of view using research, and it's very eloquently described in his YouTube videos. Again, I'll try to put a link about those down below. Tip number 9 is going to be Eli Gilbert, man. Watch Eli Gilbert's 30 Days of Banjo. If you're just getting into this, I think it was a great place to start. This is how I started playing banjo, is just using his 30 Days of Banjo. He's a very good instructor. His videos are very well done. I know it took me 6 months to do his 30 Days of Banjo, but I thought it was great. I actually may do a full video review of his 30 Days of Banjo because I enjoyed it so much. And it is free. Now I did sign up to be a patron on his Patreon page because I thought it was so worth it that I wanted to give something back. But that is a very, very good place to start. And then lastly, if you haven't guessed, tip number 10 is, if you're starting to feel pain or an injury, stop and go to the doctor and get it checked out and get help to figure out what's going on. Don't do what I did. I was 6 months in, 4 months in, and I started to develop finger pain. I thought I can figure it out myself. 8.5 months in, I had to do a full stop. I could barely bend my finger. I had to take 3.5 months off. Just the other day, I'm finally going in to get x-rays on the finger and getting some physical therapy for it. I've wasted a lot of time being stubborn about admitting that my finger was an issue. So don't do that. Go ahead and stop, figure it out, and then move on. You'll save time in the long run. So don't follow my example on this at all. All right, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in. I hope these tips help you out. Had I known them, I think they would have helped me out. So I guess that's it. If I get more tips in my second year, I'll make another video. That being that, I'll see you all later. Bye.